You're listening to the Jam Price Show, all about movies. And today, my guest is award winning director Armani Ortiz. And we're going to be talking about this really, really, really wonderful documentary, Maxine's Baby, the Tyler Perry story. Welcome to the show, Armani.
And thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And for all the people listening, Jan's voice is incredible. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but that's the first thing I said to her today.
Thank you. It's a great way to start off the interview. With a nice compliment. So I
Yes.
appreciate it very much. Well, I have to tell you, this is a wonderful documentary, and I'm going to be real honest up front. I am not Tyler Perry's audience. I've always been aware of him, and I've watched him be interviewed by Oprah and other people and whatnot, but I've never seen one of his movies or his TV shows.
Right.
But after watching this documentary, I thought I really want to go and watch some of his movies now and really get to see who he is. But this documentary is heartwarming and a heart opening too. I cried at times when I watched this documentary. I really did, and I have such admiration and appreciation for Tyler Perry and all that he has done and accomplished in his life, overcoming the struggles that he has. So I can't wait to talk to you deeper about this. And first, I want to ask you, how did you get involved with this project?
No, for sure. Well, before I even answer that, I think that that is the best compliment that we have gotten myself and Gelila, my director as well, that's on the project, is that a lot of people are like, oh well, I know Tyler, I know his successes, I know that he does a couple of things, but maybe I haven't seen his projects or maybe I don't know too much about him. But we wanted to make a documentary that really opened up him as a human being. And when we hear like stories like yours, Jen, that's like, oh wow, like we feel like we succeeded because what we didn't want to do is make a fluff piece and just show everyone how successful he is, but rather like show the trials and tribulations that he had to go through in order to become who he is. And hopefully the audience will be able to see themselves in these type of struggles because we all go through those things. Getting ahead of myself, but to answer your first question, I was a documentarian. I was working in Los Angeles at the time, and I had a couple of clients, and me and Gelila, who is again the co-director and producer of this project, she was working on this well before me, and so we had a mutual friend who my friend showed her some of the documentaries that I've made, and we met for 30 minutes in New York. And quite literally, like, because of her aura and because of her integrity that I at least I felt, I was like, hey, I feel like this is a story that I can lend myself to. I didn't know it was gonna be 10 years, but I'm glad it was because it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. So that's how I got started. And then little by little, we started working on the project, and 10 years later, here we are.
You are. And Gilliel is beautiful, just stunningly beautiful, and not only outwardly, but inwardly. And you really get that too. I've watched interviews with both of you with Tyler, and she's just got a beautiful spirit. So I could see how you could only in a few minutes know that that was somebody you would want to work with.
1000%. I've been so blessed to be able to call her my big sister at this point. And being with her and under her tutelage as well as obviously Tyler's, I've been able to really grow not only as a filmmaker, but probably the most important aspect of filmmaking is kind of learn more about yourself and learn more about humanity. So I feel like the biggest compliment that I can give her is that she made me a better man. So it's been something that's just been incredible to actually be like, hey, yeah, I'm so glad that I took that leap with her.
Yes, and isn't it nice to be around people who make us better for having
It-
been with them?
it-
That's a real sign of a really unique, special person to be able to do that. So
1000.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. So 10 years. Let's talk about 10 years. I
10
mean,
years, and where do you want to start?
why 10 years?
I mean, at first, the we came into it, we're like, we didn't really have, or Galila rather didn't have an endpoint for it. She was like, hey, we'll probably do this for 2, 3 years, just like a very vague thing. I'm like, okay, cool, that sounds about right, because I've done a couple of documentaries where 2, 3 years, you get to know your subject and you get to understand what it is and you start editing and all that stuff. But as we continue to progress, you know, the 10 years was necessary because who Tyler Perry is, we had to earn that vulnerability and that trust, sticking a camera in his face and, us being relatively unknown filmmakers is not like he was ready to just be like, yeah, here are all the issues that I went through as a child. We really had to earn that trust between the two. And the 10 years really was like the secret sauce in making this an authentic and real piece of journalism, documentarian type of effort to put forth to an audience that is worthy of their attention. Because if not, we would have been like trying to rush the process and trying to be like, okay, well, this was good enough. There will be times where I would shoot for 12, 13, 14 hours and like nothing would happen.
Mm.
And then there'll be a time where, because so many years has passed by, he's like, I want to answer some questions right now. I'd be like, okay, let me get the tripod. Let me try to figure it out. So I'm glad. And then at the same time, he's doing so much. Like when I started with
Oh,
him, he had a smaller studio. And then as you've seen, he Fort McPherson is a woolly mammoth, over 330 acres of property in Atlanta. I've seen that growth and I've been able to question him in all these moments. And, I think the 10 years was necessary in order to make the story, what it is.
well, the proof is in the documentary, and the documentary is wonderful. So so I guess those 10 years were perfect.
Yeah.
It is interesting because I would think it would be hard for him to open up because I think my sense is he's rather guarded as he should be, and then to talk about his painful upbringing, but how that shaped him and made him the man he is today. And that, that's the part of it. When I always say everybody has a cross to bear, right? All of us have something. And it's about overcoming those and learning from it. And he obviously did. It propelled him to be the man he is today.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I think that, someone with those type of accolades and, everything that he had to endure, there's an aspect of kind of like you have every right to shut yourself off from the world and say, "Hey, I'm just going to focus on this and that's in my past." And, but he has such humility and such, vulnerability to say, "Hey, maybe this story can help someone else."
Right.
And, as when I started, I didn't really know much. I've seen projects and I knew about Tyler from that fan perspective. But I didn't know about the hardships. I never saw the Oprah interview. I didn't know anything really about that. So then as we continued to talk and grow and I visited the father and talked to the family members and obviously see the type of tenacity that he has in his work ethic, I was like, oh wow, like this is a story that is not only like amazingly unique in terms of like how was he able to become the Tyler Perry, but
Right.
also incredibly relatable in the sense of where people go through domestic violence, people go through seeing their mom being hurt, go through sexual assault, whatever the case may be, and you have to find a way, God willing, to overcome that and still be a person that kind of like shines light. And I think that that's the thing that we wanted to like really highlight in the film
Mhm.
because he had every reason to not help people, to be like, okay, well, I'll just be selfish and make sure that I'm okay. And that's something that's like honorable and deserves praise, you know what I'm saying? So, it was incredible to learn how he's been able to take his pain, and he says this in the thing, take his pain and turn it into power.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Really beautiful. His faith, though, that's the thing that, comes through strong and clear is his faith and his belief.
Hmm.
And that's really to me the nuts and bolts of everything in life, for us, but not everybody has that. And
Hmm.
how he was able to kind of just remove himself from the pain and the things that he was going through and just kind of block it all off. But the faith was there always.
Oh my God, yes, 1000%. We learned from the one of the biggest breakthroughs that we've were able to find in the documentary throughout the 10 years was finding those tapes of his mother, Maxine.
Yeah, and I do
And
want to talk about her and that. Go on, please go.
for
Yeah.
sure. So, but when we saw that, I mean, when we found that rather, which we got in trouble for, by the way, we'll talk about that in a second. But
Okay.
we were able to be like, oh my God, this is the soul of the film. And more importantly, this is like Tyler's soul, kind of, because one, you see that his whole motivation was truly his mother. And then when you speak to Tyler about it, he's like, my mother not only believed in me, but she also gave me Jesus. And whether you believe whatever you believe in, fine. But the fact that it's such a core belief in him and the way that he uses it to uplift people instead of make divisions amongst crowds is the thing that I think no matter what you believe in, it can be like you could tip your hat to that. And one thing that we always like, I when I first met him, we would go on obviously to his sets while he's working, and he always starts his day with a prayer with everyone, and he always says like,
Oh,
"Hey, this isn't mandatory. This is just something that I like to do to keep us grounded, to realize we're grateful for everything." And like we would do this prayer, and like we would do the prayer every single day, and it's something where I'm just like, wow, like God and his faith is the pillar that makes his success, and he uses it in such a beautiful way that like it's inspired me to do the same. So like it's been awesome, and Tyler wouldn't be Tyler without his faith.
yeah, yeah. I wonder what wonderful way to start the day, but also start a project. When you're working with
Yes,
a team.
yes.
That
I've said many a prayers during this 10-year documentary. It's been good. It's been good.
So let's talk about the title of the
Yes.
film and the tapes and why you got in trouble.
Yes, yes. So let's see where to start. So we'll start off with the tapes first. So Tyler was very hands off in the entire project. Tyler he didn't watch the film. He wasn't a part of the film, other than when we were lucky enough for him to say yes to do an interview. And at the time, at this point, I'm like maybe 5, 6 years in the game with him, and like so, like everyone at the studios knows me. Everyone knows Gelila, of course. So like we're like going through the archives trying to find, behind the scene footage prior to me, like the TBS days, when he was in Hope Street, like his very, very, very first. So I'm like, okay, hope maybe someone had a camera. We don't know. So we're going through all these things. And at the time I had full range of the safe of the vault. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like I can take anything I want. And they were, I don't know if people know about these anymore, mini DVs. So like there used to be mini DV tapes that you would put into a VHS, then you put the VHS into a VCR player, whatever, whatever. So we found like maybe like a stack of like untitled mini DV tapes. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I just took it all in a pile, whatever. And when we put it obviously to digitize everything, we were like, yo, and I've never met Maxine. Gelila has, so I didn't know who it was. So then like as obviously the interview is going on, Galila's like, oh my God, that's Maxine. And so like we got into serious trouble because obviously like those are his tapes about his mother, and I would be upset as well because if some random kid from the Bronx came and just took my tapes, about my mom, I would be upset as well. um but I have to believe that he hasn't seen those tapes in well over 10 years at least minimum. And so when we put it in the film and he saw it right before we gave it to Amazon, I'm sure it was like the hardest thing for him to see, because thankfully I still have my mother present. But like if God forbid she passed away and like I randomly hear her voice, it would destroy me in a beautiful way, but in a way where I just wouldn't be prepared for it. So we got into massive trouble for that. Um, but also it was, and it's exactly how it like we didn't, is exactly how it is in the film. And he was like, hey, this is beautiful. Like I'm kind of like I've made my peace with this thing, and you can like show it to the world. And so one day we during COVID, I think, I spent like 2 hours with him, like just interviewing him. because like he was like, you know what? Like it just randomly hit. Was like, yeah, I'll answer some questions right now. So I'm going 2 years, I'm going 2 years, and I'm just like, I'm 2 hours rather, and I'm just like, all right, man, like in my head, because like I wasn't prepared for it. So I was just like kind of like it was just a regular conversation, kind of like you and me. And I'm like, all right, Armani, you have to like ask him one last question. Like, where's the question? Where's the question? And then no spoilers at the end. Um, he says, well, I guess I could say it now. It's been out for a while.
Right.
Oh, like I'm like, how do you define yourself? And then he gave me some shit, and it's fine because that's what he does. He's like my father figure at this point. Um, and then he said, "Oh, I'm Tyler Perry and I'm Maxine baby." And then like I called Gelila. I'm like, Gelila, we got it. This is the title. And she was like 1000%. And then that was that.
Yeah, and tell the story behind that
Oh
about
yeah.
his mother, because I think that's yeah, says it
So
all right there too.
yeah, I won't go into depth only for the simple fact that, it's Maxine and Tyler's story to tell.
Right,
It's my
right.
documentary to tell. And you guys can watch it and you guys can get a more in-depth reason. But Maxine is Tyler's mom, and she went through things that no one should ever go through in order to make sure that her family was safe. And throughout all of this, she was the beacon of hope as Tyler was growing up in New Orleans. And every single moment that he has had, especially when she was alive, he's only been trying to give back and help her out of the situation that she found herself in. And there's a moment in time, even when Maxine didn't believe in Tyler's dream, which was a great, just conversation that we had and Gelila had with him. And, you know, it crushed him because like this is the only person that I've ever wanted to impress and love and like take out of the situation. But it's just the love that Tyler has and has had and gives to other people. It's all Maxine. It's everything is and always will be about Maxine. So that is what, the title means. That is what, for a very, very brief description that I can give, is what Maxine meant to Tyler. So, she is the embodiment of this film because she is the embodiment of Tyler.
Beautiful. Just beautiful. But I was asking them, I'm glad you went there, actually.
Yeah.
What I meant is the how her, when she was being introduced always as Tyler Perry's mother,
Oh,
that
oh, oh, oh,
story.
that story. Well, that's Tyler's story. I can't really talk about that,
You
but
can't talk about that, okay?
can't be only because it's not really my story, but it is hilarious. It is
Yeah.
hilarious that like I think the story goes, and I don't want to butcher
Oh,
it.
wait, I was gonna say we'll just have to watch the documentary.
Yeah, just watch the documentary, but yeah, no, it's awesome. Yeah.
That's where I was headed with it. So, what was, other than getting in trouble for the tapes? I mean, you interviewed a lot of people
Yes.
in this. How difficult was it to get Oprah and many of the other people that you interviewed in this film? Because I always love it when when people who have been a part of someone's life get interviewed and their perspective. So what was that like, and how difficult was it to get uh, everyone on board to be interviewed?
Yeah, it was difficult because no one knew of us. So they all thought that we were lying. We were like, hey, like Oprah, we would love to talk about Tyler. And they're like, like who the heck are these guys? But
Right.
thankfully we had amazing producers, Sante White, Jasmine White, Christina as well, freaking amazing, amazing producers. And they were able to really like knock down the doors. Like I was not a part of the process of like getting everyone seated. I was thankfully we had an amazing team of producers that was able to get it. But it was difficult. It was tough. There was only one person that we didn't get that me and Galila felt like, man, like it would have been so amazing to have this person, but it was just a matter of circumstance. It was Cicely Tyson,
Oh,
and
man.
we had everything lined up. Then COVID happened, so then we kind of like shut it down out of safety. And then before we were able to re-up again, unfortunately, she had passed away. So it was the one person that we all were like, because of what she is to Black cinema, what she is to Tyler as well,
Mm-hmm.
and the relationship that they had. It's the one thing that, like, we can't kick ourselves for it, but it's something that we knew if the world was different, we would have been able to do it.
Right, right. Let's talk about the opening of his film studio because that's pretty amazing. I did live in Atlanta for a little bit of time. I worked for the Olympics in '96, so I'm familiar with Atlanta. But that's pretty, his studio is pretty awesome. And the opening of the studio and how he named each sound stage, because you got Cicely Tyson
We
footage there. So let's
we
talk
got her.
about that. Yeah.
That was, no lie, Jan, the most nerve-wracking day of the 10 years ever. Just for the simple fact that as a documentarian, you have to kind of always be above the moment because you're not there to really experience it. You're there to kind of like record it and like be a fly on the wall and kind of understand this so that and shoot it in a way that an audience can understand it later. And when I was there, I was like, Okay, like even like the opening of the film, I'm like, I need to ask him a question. I need to ask him a question because this is a moment in time. And so like he was like, please, Armani, just don't ask me questions right now. I don't know if I can curse, by the way.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Okay, cool. And so I felt the gravity of the moment and to have all of not only um influential Black entertainers that have changed the landscape of entertainment, let alone cinema,
Mhm.
was incredible. But the feeling was the thing that I was like, hey, I can't get lost in this, even though I know how special it is. In the sense of like, everyone was there to literally support and uplift one another. It wasn't like an Oscar party, and not that I've ever been to one, and I'm not trying to throw shade at the Oscar party, but like everyone wasn't there for just a celebration. Everyone was there to be like, wow, this is a milestone that we at one point never thought it possible for a Black man to open this type of studio to help uplift and share a voice that at sometimes was muted. And on top of that, give reverence and applaud all the people that have come before him and us. Um, was just something incredible. It was once in a lifetime. I knew that it was once in a lifetime. And I was just trying to get every single bit that I could. But it was probably the only moment where for 1 second I put the camera down and I was like, I took a shot and I looked around and I was like, wow, this is probably something that I'll never see again. And this is just immensely inspirational. Um, but it was such a beautiful thing because that is what Tyler has always done. He's always uplifted the people that have come before him, whether it's there, whether it's the Chitlin Circuit, whether it's, his family in New Orleans. Like he's been able to say, this is where we and I have come from. And this is the door that I'm trying to hold for new people to get opportunities, just how they have done it for me. And, hopefully, thankfully, me and Gelila are part of that legacy now. And as we continue to grow in our careers, we're able to hold the door and start a new little checkpoint for someone else. So like it was incredible.
Oh, yeah. And I'm so grateful that you captured that so the rest of the world could see that historic day. It's historical with him opening that studio, truly.
Yeah.
And groundbreaking on so many different levels. And so it was beautifully captured and you just felt you were there and it just you're that's when I cried. There's certain other points too, but certainly there because there was just tears of joy and happiness for him and his success after having seen how hard he has worked. He is the hardest working man in show business, that's for sure. There's no doubt about it. His work ethic is bar none. Pretty
Yes,
amazing, pretty amazing.
and it's pretty hard to keep up with him. That was one of the hardest part. Also, like keeping up with him with 10 years, but also like he's ingrained in me what hard work is. So like now doing other things, and I work at the studio now, just understanding that there is hard work, but there's hard work with a purpose because people are depending on you, and those people you may have not met yet, but like that is the purpose and the faith of the hard work.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what are you working on now?
Right now, I just came back from Tribeca Film Festival, and I did a musical with the artist Bad Bunny, and we were able to
Okay.
showcase it in Tribeca during the shorts program, and it was fantastic. It was incredible. Once, hopefully not once in a lifetime. Hopefully, I could go back and uh, show the feature length, which we're trying to get off the ground right now. And then also, I have a show on BET Plus, Perimeter, that released in February. And that is about Atlanta in the 90s and just right before the Olympics are coming into town. And so it was like 1992-ish area, 91. So all those things, like, that is my main goal right now, my main focus. Um, but yeah, the musical is the next passion project that I'm trying to get off the ground, a new age for like a new age West Side Story.
Yeah, well, I did get to see part one, part two, and one is to be continued. And I thought it was, well, I love West Side Story. It's one of my all-time favorite movies, and it certainly reminded me of that, no doubt. And it was the choreography, the music, the lighting, the stage, everything was just really, compelling and keeps you want to watch more and see the rest of the story. So I wish you much success, continued success with Maxine's Baby, the Tyler Perry story, with your future projects. Love to have you back on the show again, Armani. And everyone, you can see Maxine's Baby right now on Amazon Prime, on Amazon Video. It is streaming. If you don't have Amazon Video, highly recommend that you get it. There's so many great shows on Amazon to watch. So thank you again. It was a blessing having you on the show.
Dan, you let me know anytime that I can be here. It's been an incredible conversation. And if you're ever back in Atlanta, come to the studio so that we can chop it up.
Love to. Love to. Thank you. Have a great day. Take care.